Valia stared out the window at the drizzling rain. The colors of the mountains and trees outside, usually a vibrant green, seemed muted, like someone had smudged a wet sponge across the landscape. The colorful buildings of Avania's capital were equally dimmed. Valia couldn't blame the rain, though. Even the colors inside her chamber were faded. Ever since Valia's mother and sisters had been killed, nothing had been the same. Not the bright tapestries in her chamber, nor the rich food the chefs prepared, nor even Valia's own father.
Princess?
One of Valia's chambermaids, a pretty girl of a cycle in 3 seasons, Colleen, poked her head around the door.
The king summons you to dinner.
Tell him I don't feel well.
Valia pressed her forehead against the cool glass of the window and turned her gaze away. At first, Valia had hoped she and her father could take solace in each other, the last 2 surviving members of their family. But that dream had quickly evaporated. All the king wanted to do now was talk about Valia's mother and sisters. He asked Valia to repeat the story of their deaths again and again, and analyzed how, if she'd acted just a little quicker, they might have lived. It was too painful.
Okay, princess.
The chambermaid retreated, leaving Valia alone again. The wind from the closing door swept the flame away from Valia's candle. Normally, Valia would have pricked her finger and recited a seed spell, the kind of magic she'd been using since she was a child. The candle would have sputtered to life across the room without her getting to her feet. Yet now, Valia's magic seemed to have deserted her too. She couldn't count the number of times she'd tried to use a spell, even a simple one, to no avail since her family's deaths. Valia got up and pattered across the chamber. The flagstones were chilled beneath her feet, despite the fire in the hearth. Valia lit the candle by the hearth's flame, but a moment later it was extinguished with the breeze of the door opening again. Valia whirled, slightly annoyed now, but it wasn't one of her chambermaids standing in the doorway this time. It was a man, a strange man. Valia froze. The man looked ordinary enough. He was tall and muscular, with the black clothes and short hair of a royal hunter, but the edges of his frame seemed to be blurred somehow.
Is he using a disguise cantrip?
Princess?
The man's eyes widened, and he stepped closer. Instinctively, Valia took a large step back.
Who are you?
Come, quickly.
The man took another step and reached for Valia's wrist. She pulled away, but not fast enough. His long, strong fingers closed around her, sending a shiver up Valia's arm. His hand was warm, solid.
Let go of me.
Valia tried to yank her hand away, but he was far stronger than she was.
Who are you?
I'm here to bring you home.
He pulled her toward the door.
Hurry! You're in an illusion. I'll explain everything, but first we have to get out of here.
Valia tried to yank her hand away again. She reached into her mind for the words to a spell that would knock this intruder back, sound an alarm for help, anything. A spell like that would need more than a simple drop of blood, but Valia was ready to pay the price. Yet the words wouldn't come to her.
Stop fighting me. They'll be here any moment.
The intruder sounded genuinely annoyed that Valia had a problem with him dragging her out of her bedchamber. Speaking of which, where were her guards? The man was right that they should be here by now.
Princess, your father sent me.
My father is down the hall right this moment. He didn't send you.
Not to mention, King Aran had told her last night that he wished one of her sisters or her mother had survived instead of her. He hardly cared about Valia anymore.
Your father isn't down the hall.
The man tugged more forcefully on her arm.
Will you please just...
The door flew open. Behind it stood one of Valia's guards, a drawn sword in his hand.
Finally.
Princess, get back!
Valia ducked as the guard lunged forward, sword extended. The man pivoted out of the way, but he had to release Valia's hand to do so. She tripped backward and made it to the safety of her windowsill as the guard turned toward the man again. From the safety of her windowsill, Valia watched as the intruder grasped a long whip that had been secured to his back. The intruder pivoted away from another blow. He knocked the guard down with a swift kick behind the knee and rolled away to the far side of Valia's sizable chamber. He moved with the grace and skill of an Avanian learguard. The whip flicked through the air, reminding Valia of the prehensile tail of a wyvern, and clipped the guard on the hand. Wincing, the guard lost his grip on his sword as it clattered to the ground. The intruder pressed his advantage, swinging the whip in another graceful arc, but the guard dodged away. Undeterred, the man leapt back and swung the whip again in a whistling arc. Its sharp tip connected with the guard's neck. Blood spurted out from the cut, though in the candlelight it appeared to Valia as if it were dark blue, almost black. The guard stumbled back. The whip recoiled and struck again in an instant, this time wrapping around the guard's waist. The guard grabbed onto the whip in an attempt to stop its relentless strikes, a fatal mistake. The intruder yanked straight back, pulling the guard into him. In one smooth motion, he drew a dagger from his boot and lunged forward, plunging it upwards through the opening below the guard's helmet. A bloom of dark blood spilled down the guard's chest plate as he collapsed, motionless. Valia gasped as she backed further into the corner. She pricked her thumb, ready to fight with whatever magic she could muster. But before she could cast, 3 more guards poured into the room. Without hesitation, the intruder struck the second guard. Dark blood leaked from a gash on the guard's face, which seemed to twist like melted candle wax. Valia stared, both horrified and confused. It must have been a trick of the light, as he looked normal just a moment later.
Hold!
The 3 guards operated in unison,
Flank!
slowly circling the intruder while holding a defensive stance. As skilled as he was no match for 3 trained men. As he held 2 of them at a distance, his whip whistling and striking, quickly and accurately, the third burst forward, closing in and striking the man across the back of the head with the hilt of his sword. The intruder went limp and slumped to the ground.
Who is that?
One of the guards raised his head.
This man murdered your father.
His eyes were like 2 dark pools, devoid of any warmth.
King Aran was asleep in his room when this man attacked. We can only assume he was trying to kill you next.
My father?
Valia's heart began to race even faster. Even though they hadn't been on good terms recently, her father was the only remaining member of her family. He couldn't be dead. He couldn't be.
It's all right, Princess.
One of the guards crossed the room to her and gently placed his hand on her wrist.
We'll keep you safe. You're the last living member of the royal family, after all.
But Valia could hardly understand his words. She only felt his hand on her wrist, just where the intruder had touched her. where that man's hand had been warm and solid, her guard's hand felt cold and insubstantial. There had been that fuzziness around the man's outline, too. And where was the slain guard? Had 2 guards already carried him off while she was speaking with the one? Yet, when Valia looked at the spot where his body had been, there was no blood, nothing there at all. Something wasn't right. Valia watched in silence as the guards hauled the unconscious intruder out of the room. She walked over and inspected the man's weapons, still laying on the chamber floor. The dagger was ornate with unfamiliar markings, and it had a dark material embedded in the handle. For how solid it looked, it was light as a feather, and she'd never seen someone use a whip. Unlike the dagger, it was heavier than it looked. Again, there was no blood. Her mind returned from the mystery of the blood to what the guard had said. Was her father truly dead? Her heart in her throat, Valia rushed down the hallway and up the stairs to King Aran's chambers. The further she ran from her room, the more her heart pounded and the colder the air felt. She flung open the doors to her father's rooms. She hesitated at the doorway as she looked at the neatly made bed. Her father wasn't in it, living or not. And hadn't her maid said that the king was waiting for her at dinner anyway?